It is November 1st, 2021. This is Roqe. She's an award-winning photographer and producer who arrived from Iran in 2010 and quickly established herself in LA. Now Manush Nabavi has launched her own movie studio and is ready to take on the industry. She joins us from Los Angeles coming up, but first, she's a fashion designer who quite literally created a new trend in handbags with her Tara Zadeh line. Now Tara Ghazanfar has been tapped as the designer to watch everywhere from Vogue to Harper's Bazaar. How did a woman born in America and raised in Europe become so influenced by Iran? Tara joins us from London coming up. This is Conversations from, to, and about the Iranian diaspora. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 153 of Roqe. Nice to be talking to you. Hope you're keeping well wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Hello to you from Toronto, from Canada. Salam, Dustan Aziz. Durud bar shoma. Today, a study in contrasts, you might say, Kian. Two smart, successful Iranian women in their early 30s, but differences in outlook and identity. I'm thinking Tara Zadeh, kid of the diaspora, like you and I.
Yeah. Born
in Texas, grew up in London and Paris, and yet yearns for all things Iranian, calls herself an Iranian designer. Her handbags and designs have already become hugely popular around the world, worn by influencers, etc. They are influenced by all things, she says, Iranian. She embraces her Iranian side. On the other hand, Manush Nabavi grew up in Iran, came from there 10 years ago in Los Angeles, building her own movie studio. You know, she's doing really well as a producer, creative director, casting director, prefers to work, she says, with Westerners, not with Iranians.
You want the opposite of what you have growing up.
There you go.
I blame it on that.
The chaman is always greener.
Exactly.
On the other side.
That's it.
Thank you. That is the voice of Groovy Shaya, known for his grooviness and his hirsute figure. A hairy man now. And that's Captain Reza. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
And this is the fabulous Kian. Hello.
Hi, Jian.
Hello, Kian. So those two people are coming up.
Exciting.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Two powerful women.
So there you go. That and you as well. So in the combination, two powerful women.
And
still.
Reza as well, actually. I'm kidding.
Happy post-Halloween.
Happy post-Halloween.
Everybody. I know. See, Kia, my impression of you.
What is that?
Is that you have people who would help you get dressed, get some outfit and some. No, she's got some. Yeah, she's like
fun.
Calls up. She's got a spa. You know, but she has a spa. She's got a hair person. She's got some. Can you get me a costume? And then somebody runs and there's no, not that one. And somebody else comes and
basically
and
like the Cinderella.
a person goes running out of the room crying and the wrong wig. And then you go to like this ball, like Beauty and the Beast style, like this fancy ball where you're dressed immaculately in some. Amazing costume that has been designed for you and your andom, your hikal.
Hikal? What is that?
I don't know. What's the word for
andom?
Figure. Andom, yes. So is that true? I mean, is that what happened on the weekend?
Usually, yes, but not this year.
Oh.
I didn't have the hosele this year.
Oh, you didn't have no energy for Halloween.
It depends. Usually, I don't know. I always look forward to Halloween, dressing up and just the excitement of going to a party.
And you didn't do it?
Not this year, no.
Oh,
no, did you?
I'll tell you who had the energy for Halloween.
Who had the energy for Halloween?
The kids on my street.
Aww.
I am telling you. Now, I happen to live I live in a very kid-friendly area. In fact, I don't know what the hell I'm doing there. It's like everybody looks at me like, "Where's your kids?" Me and Oogie are looking at each other, But it was magical. My street was really in the spirit. I counted, I think, I almost ran out of candy. Because at first, I got all these chocolate bars, and at first I was handing 2 out at a time. And then after a while, I was like, no, you just get 1 coffee crisp, because I was worried. I think I had about 150 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, come to the door.
Is that usually the case? Like every year?
I felt like it was a lot of pent up, the kids needed their candy. Like it's been COVID for a couple of years. It's like, fuck that. I need candy. I need to do Halloween. But my street was, and I'll tell you, it's always the same arc. The little ones come around 6 p.m. That's a really tiny ones with their, but mind you, I was going to say with their parents, but almost all the kids come with their parents these days. I mean, back in the day, like in my day, the kids, parents would send you out there like animals out on the street, running around. There was no parents, come home at 3 a.m. with a bag of, no one cared. But now the parents stand at the, the sidewalk, and the kid come up. In some cases, the parents actually come up and say hello, and it was very nice. It's very neighborly, but it's interesting how it's changed. Anyway, so the little ones at 6 p.m. Then the majority come from like around 7 till 8 p.m. Right?
Yeah.
That's where I got about 100 kids in. And then then at 9 o'clock or thereafter, you know where I'm going with this. You get you get like 2 16-year-olds, a couple of guys, like a couple of dudes with no costume on, trick or treat, like one of them smoking, like. And then you're like, I have to give you candy, but then you got to give it to them, otherwise they're going to egg the house or something. They're going to take it out on you, rob you. So I got those kids. I mean, I swear to God, around sure enough, around 9 p.m. The door rings. Okay. Hi, guys. Trick or treat. Give me some fucking candy. I just pour out the rest of the bucket into their bag. Take whatever you need. Here's my wallet, please. Now, I don't think. I mean, I was asking around. I asked Super P and a couple of Halloween kind of exists in Iran, but like as an excuse to just put more makeup on for some people, but it's not really a thing, right, Shaya?
Yes,
it's not.
We don't have trick or treat in Iran, but we have like Halloween parties, which is almost animal parties, and you go crazy, and it's a
I see. Animal parties? What are you talking about?
No, I mean very hardcore parties.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
But that's an adult thing, or like
yes.
So there's kids don't go out in the streets and go from door to door.
I think it's mainly a North American thing. My friends in London were telling me the same thing. Like the adults all have their Halloween parties, but no kids
trick or treat. I remember I grew up in London and we didn't have Halloween. We had Guy Fawkes Day because there's a guy. Yeah.
What?
Guy Fawkes is
gotta be different.
He's it's a whole character that was invented, and he's a bandit, and then on Guy Fawkes Day you burn him. You create a little effigy of Guy Fawkes and you burn him. But anyway, it's
wait, how can you just move on from what the hell is Guy Fawkes?
You never heard of Guy?
No.
We just had John Lennon party. We burned down.
You've never heard of Guy Fawkes?
No. What the hell?
Guy Fawkes Day. He was Guy Fawkes was like a notorious character, and then on the day on Guy Fawkes Day, which is kind of like Halloween, like it's like a kids celebrated and stuff. You create. I think you build a big bonfire and you put Guy Fawkes on top of it. And
Why
you burn
did they
him.
want to burn Guy Fawkes?
Because he was a bad person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think either that or he was unfairly burned. One of the two. But
is it on the same date as Halloween?
I don't know if it's the same day. No, but it was our thing. But Halloween. Then when it came to Canada and Halloween it was such a big deal. As kids, you collecting candy. I mean, the whole lore of it, the whole excitement of it, and then of course you get older, and it's an excuse for, people to dress like they're going to a club. Like, oh, what are you supposed to be? I'm Catwoman. It's like because you're wearing a hot
Cat
dress
ears.
and some ears. Yeah. But I figured in Iran, I mean, there wasn't because there's a couple of Instagram sites and stuff I check out that are like, one of them is like they're kind of promoting things in Tehran or whatever, and so one of them had people with pumpkins and costumes on, and I thought, do they have Halloween, or like, do you go maybe door to door and everyone gives each other a Quran and says, please go read the Quran, and
there's a ongoing argue that should we have Halloween in Iran because it's not a Persian tradition, and there's some people that they are saying, oh, it's like a Western tradition, and let's give up on having that. And there is some other people that they want to party. They want a reason to
But
party.
wait, for Nowruz, don't the kids go around and do
Qashq
something?
Zani?
Yeah, something like
we
they
have
get.
something similar to that they go door to door. I don't know if they still
At
do that.
Charshanbe
though.
Suri, actually.
Oh, in
they do
Charshanbe
it
Suri.
then,
So it's before Nowruz.
Right. So what do they say when they go door
we
to door?
go door to door, and then they
trick or treat.
Yeah, well, something like that, I suppose. Yeah, like, but they
And
grab
here's
like
some
a
nabat.
pot and a spoon, and they bang the pot, like the spoon against the pot, and they're like, Qashq Zani, give us some money or something, right?
No, they get like little like what do you call them? Ajil and stuff,
nuts.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
they get
I mean,
nuts.
you guys grew up in Iran.
Are
You
the
should know
nuts
better than me.
packaged, or are they in like people's greasy
dirty
hands, and they just put them in the?
Totally, dirty.
I mean, it's like, I like how the Persian version always has to be like some aggressive, like they come with like a pot and pan. Give me some, It's like
Banging on it.
here, children dress as a ballet dancer. Could I have some candy? But so, where do you stand, Shai, on the? Is it Western imperialism for you to have Halloween in Iran?
No,
or is it-
actually, I would like to have a Halloween party in Tehran, but some people do it religiously.
Well, forget the party, but what about like for kids? I mean, it's supposed to be a kid. It's not just supposed to be an excuse to party. It's a magical event for kids. All the houses. I mean, I don't know if in Riverdale where you live, but in on my street, including my house, we really go all out decorating. So it's kind of like wondrous. You walk down the street and there's all these. It looks like you're in a theme park or something.
No, I mean, instead of that, I would prefer to promote Qashq Zani, which is a traditional Persian, and it's better to promote our tradition.
I think you should think of that next time we bring some Mars bars and Coffee Crisp into the office, and you shouldn't eat those because those are Western.
Well, you can have it for Qashq Zani, You can ask for the same chocolate.
Are you allowed to eat Western chocolate bars?
But personally, I prefer to have nuts instead of aji. Yeah.
That's okay.
Healthy.
Captain Reza will give you some agil out of his hands.
I
Yeah,
thought you were gonna go totally different with that.
I knew you thought that, and I preempted myself. Keon June.
You gotta be
the
careful what
way
you say.
you followed up
with man.
By the way, I'm seeing the picture of Guy Fawkes night.
Yes.
It's really dangerous. It seems like no, really. It's
Can you? Did you Google Guy Fawkes?
Yes.
Okay.
yes,
What
yes.
does it say? Was I right about?
Okay.
Because
Also
I
known
hadn't done it since I
as
was a kid.
is an annual commemoration observed on November 5th,
Okay.
primarily in the United Kingdom.
Yes.
And so I think Reza can say it more fluently.
Okay. I don't know about that. Can we? Let's just move on.
Guy Fawkes Night, also known as Guy Fawkes Day, Bonfire Night, is an annual commemoration observed on November 5th, primarily in the United Kingdom. Its history begins with the events of 5 November 5th.
So far, he's just said what Shai
Exactly
said.
what he just said. Just slower somehow.
Was arrested while
okay.
guarding explosives.
Oh.
The
What?
plotters has placed beneath the House of Lords, celebrating the fact that King James the First had survived the attempt on his life.
Right. Guy Fawkes was trying to blow up the
Yeah,
legislature.
he was-
Or
So
the,
this
or something.
is
yeah.
this is real life. Like this actually happened. There's a man named Gay Fawkes.
Gay Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes.
His name is Guy, but
yeah, Guy
it's unclear what his orientation was.
1608. Nobody.
But that's unrelated to burning him.
So this is based on history, though. Like this man actually existed.
Yeah,
and-
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Guy
Okay.
Fawkes. But it turns into, but it was there's some element with kids now, and I mean, I know there was some Guy Fawkes Day. I mean, I guess I equate the two because it's, you know, it's
close.
scary and it's monstrous
And it's very close, November 5th.
and it's close
It's
in
coming
time,
right
yeah.
up.
I just remember when we first came here and there was Halloween, I didn't really know what it was, but we have Guy Fawkes Day, you know, like that, you know, and, yeah. Well, we've learned a lot,
Yes, indeed.
which is that Shia will not observe any Western holidays.
Reza can't read, and
Reza-
Guy Fawkes tried to blow up
There you
legislature.
go. A big thank you to Kati Kavandi Immigration Services. Kati Kavandi Immigration Services are certified by the immigration consultants of the Canada Regulatory Council and deliver exceptional results on your immigration application. Their firm has maintained exemplary standards of professional practice and will give you peace of mind. You can rely on them for advice and representation. Also, Kati Kavandi Immigration Services, Inc. have officially obtained agency for the American University of Antigua College of Medicine, the AUA, throughout Canada. This university offers a medical program that serves international students who are inspired to become doctors in the US, in Canada, UK, or other countries, and enables graduates to apply for residency and fellowship throughout these countries and then apply for permanent residency. So you can go to the Antigua College of Medicine and find your way through there to the US, Canada, UK. For more information, Kati Kavandi Immigration. So on Instagram, it's kati.kavandi.immigration. Thank you very much to Kati Kavandi and her company for supporting this episode of Roqe. They're like, I think one of them was like bearded, like a couple of teenagers who came at 9:30 to my house.
Do they have no shame?
Smoking a spliff, yeah, like trick or treat. I will give you what I have left.
It is cute though. I love Halloween for that reason.
Oh,
The
you know
kids,
what?
They're just adorable.
I got so caught up in it yesterday. I was so magical. I actually just after a while stood outside my door with a bowl of candy because I was just watching the street. It was just lovely, and all these kids, you know, dressed up in cute little outfits, and it was fabulous.
And the weather was awesome.
I think that was part of the reason.
Well, Shia, what about you? I mean, now did you hand out candy?
No,
Why
I'm
didn't
at the
you?
third floor, and there is no kid in the building, and
Did you hand out candy, Reza?
No, I was out of town. I came.
Look at these guys, the Persians, eh?
Yeah, I came in.
Bah humbug,
late
you know.
last night.
Yeah.
Did you hand out candy?
I did. It
Right.
was
There
very
you go.
sweet. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
See?
Generous. No, I ate all the candies.
Thursdays we are doing a new series that we launched about a month ago called The Contemporary History of Iran. That is getting a bunch of attention and a whole bunch of shares, a whole bunch of clicks. The Contemporary History of Iran. So last week, our episode was entitled How the Iran-Iraq War Benefited Khomeini. That's drawn quite a bit of attention and a number of comments that we will be, I think, getting to later in the show. This week, the title, I'm not going to say who the guest is. It's a big name guest, but the title of this episode of The Contemporary History of Iran is The Creation of Qanun.
What's a qanun?
Well, now that's fabulous, Kian. That's why
It
you're the
is my
fabulous
name.
Kian. Yeah, because you played right into my hands there. Because I looked over at Reza and Shia.
Yes.
That's your name, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They looked at me with familiarity. Oh, we know exactly what he's talking about. I looked over to you, and
No idea.
a blank face.
Right.
Because you didn't grow up in Iran.
No, I did not.
And if you grew up in Iran past, let's say, 1965, you would know what Qanun is. The Persian name is?
قانون پرورش فکری کودکان و نوجوانان.
Right.
It's
a long title.
You just lost me even more.
It's a long title. Basically, this institute that was created to, first of all, with the intention of helping working class kids and those without means, but was created to help kids learn and get involved in the arts and the creative sector.
Wow,
so the first children's libraries in Iran, and then moving into cinema and painting and poetry, and it started with a new children's library in Tehran, and then it became this institute that became famous throughout Iran. I'm talking about this like it's a piece of history, but you guys would have, because this continued even after the revolution.
Is it still happening?
It still exists, yeah, and it's still a major thing in Iran,
Yes,
right?
yes.
In fact, you'd say it's a great resource in a place where there's not a lot of resources for kids to engage in arts and culture and.
Definitely, it's a legit place for if you want to educate your kid in a very good way. Kanun Parvarish is a place that you have
Who
to know.
founded this?
Well, it was founded. In fact, the person it was founded by is related to our guest on Thursday. So, because we've got her. But I have to say, I mean, we'll get into this more with our guest on Thursday. But it's impressive. It was clearly something that had the qudrat, the strength, to continue after the revolution. The fact that it wasn't closed down, I think there was a pause, but it's then continued, shows the power of that institution. Not just in how big it had grown, but what it has meant to generations of folks in Iran.
Was this for males? There was
No.
It's for
co-ed.
both male
It's
and
co-ed,
female.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
They probably have
Okay.
separate classes.
Right,
I
okay.
think.
Anyway, for God's sake, listen to the
Well,
episode.
that's good.
Kian.
Okay. I want to know now.
Maybe you
damn
could
it.
learn some history by listening to the contemporary history
I
of
do,
Iran.
every week.
Thank you. Brought to you by Roqe Media on Thursdays, right here on these platforms. We're coming to you on roqemedia.com. It is there that you can link to all of our platforms. We are on our ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, and CastBox. If you like to see some visuals with Roqe, switch over to YouTube right now. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in both English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. And if you want to support us, you can become a patron for a few dollars a month and support this endeavor. Go to our website, roqemedia.com, and press the red Support Us button, and it'll lead you through whatever you want to sponsor us for. You can, including becoming a sponsor of Roqe. We'd love you to do that as well. In the coming days on Roqe, Yasmin Naqdi, who is a principal ballet dancer in the UK.
I love the ballet, so I'm looking
This
forward
is
to
about
that.
as big as it gets to be in the UK Royal Ballet. Yasmin Naqdi, obviously Persian background with a name like that, Kian.
Yes, that's
That was your
pretty
first
Persian.
clue. Yeah. Seper Haddad, the author of the novel. First of all, Seper is a musician himself, part of the group Shahin and Seper, but now the author of a novel called 100 Sweet Promises, the true tale of his grandfather, who was Nasr Sultan Minbashian.
Correct.
Wow.
Who was an amazing composer and one of the founders of the Tehran Conservatories of Music.
Sure, yeah.
Also in the coming days on Roqe, Fred Ariana and Ahmad Tabrizi on being community builders, and Benjamin Ben Marco, who's a blogger and travel writer. Massively successful guy in terms of his following, who journeys around the world and makes these video documentaries of places he goes. That could be something you could do, Kia.
That is something I wish to do.
Well,
why can't I get that kind of occupation?
You have the means, you have
You're right.
the ball cap.
Takes a lot of effort,
Yes. We do have some letters today.
Yeah.
We have letters.
This just shows how how do I put this? How
Balkanized,
divided,
divided,
our community is. Specifically on the episode about Faradiba and the rise of Iranian art, we got a lot of actually come to mention that Fariba.
Fariba, yes. The
Faradiba.
conjunction of Fariba.
Faradiba herself, Her
Shahbanu,
Majesty
yeah.
Shahbanu, she shared the episode and that got quite a bit of attention.
Wow.
So, yeah, a lot of people were
And so
on
there's
that one.
different reactions to this episode. Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
I should look forward to that then.
Indeed.
All right, we'll get to the letters. We'll get to a lot more. The fabulous Kian, Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza, stick around. Let's get to the first of our two guests today. My first guest is a French-American Iranian fashion designer who finds her inspiration from geometry and architectural symmetry, as well as the colors of Iranian art, combined with Western traditions. Tara Ghazanfar was born in Houston, Texas, raised in Paris and then London. She pursued her interest in education in graphic design, going to the Persian School of Design in New York City. After graduating, she worked as an art director for esteemed magazines, including White Wall and Gentleman's Journal. She quit that impressive job to follow her lifelong dream of having her own brand, and in 2017, Tara launched Tara Zadeh handbags. It was an immediate hit. Her work and the brand have been featured in Vogue and Harper's Bazaar and have also been part of major fashion shows and events. She has sold her collections to Net-a-Porter, Browns, Farfetch, Selfridges, Harvey Nichols, Bergdorf Goodman, Bloomingdale's, and her bags have been worn by top influencers and celebrities like Irina Shayk, Emma Thompson, Carly Kloss, and Rocky Barnes. And most recently, Tara has embarked on a new project to shine a light on and celebrate Iranian women creatives from around the world called Zanai. And right now, Tara Ghazanfar joins me from London, England today. Hello.
Hello to you. Hello to everyone.
Very nice to have you on the program. That's quite a resume so far, even for a person in their early 30s, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that makes me really, I'm blushing. You can't really tell, but I'm really blushing just hearing all of that.
Some of it has happened so quickly. I mean, you made the jump to fashion designer only 3 or 4 years ago, and I'll get to all of what was involved in doing that. But to see you in Harper's Bazaar or in Vogue, all of these places called the designer to watch, the new designer to watch, what was that like for you, for things to happen that quickly?
I mean, it was super overwhelming, but very, very exciting. And I was so honored, and, you feel so rewarded of your hard work. But, I'm not going to lie that I feel very lucky. And also, the power of Instagram. It's all about the power of social media. Things can go really fast when you have one influencer who spots your bag and starts wearing it during Paris Fashion Week, and then, editors, photographers, street style, all this, they start capturing it and writing up stories about it. And it's just like snowflake ball. How do you say, when it's a domino effect, it's crazy. It just went really fast. From 2017, September, in Paris, that's where it all started.
I've sometimes said, and I believe that successful companies, musical ideas, successful fashion lines, oftentimes successful products, successful gadgets, oftentimes they all are rooted in one really good idea. That was the genesis of it. Is that part of what happened here? You just had a really good idea around handbags.
Well, to be fair, when I launched Tara Zadeh, so my signature bag, the Azar, which is a round bag, it's a bracelet bag. And so that was kind of new at the time, having this like kind of party bag where you can just wear it around your arm and have both of your hands free. And also the metallic fitting looked like a kind of jewel. So it really, a simple outfit, it just dressed up the whole outfit.
Wait, what? That was new? People didn't do that before?
Did what? The bracelet bag?
Yeah.
No, it was kind of new.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's because after that, to be very honest, like brands like Louis Vuitton, 2 seasons after, copied me, and so then you start seeing a lot of new handbags designed as a circle shape. But to be really honest with you, I know this because not only because of the research and just being in the fashion industry, but yeah, I think I was one of the first ones to create a bag designed that way. So it just instantly became an it bag. That's what I would say.
And by the way, be as honest as you can. The show's called Roqe, after all. So, yeah. I mean, be Roqe. It's okay.
Yeah.
But part of what's amazing about that, though, is that you're also the new kid in town. I mean, you, not just in town, but in the industry, you were a graphic designer. That's what you went to school for. I didn't.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily familiar with the crossover between graphic designers and fashion designers. Is there a regular kind of crossover? And if not, how was it so easy, seemingly, for you to segue?
No, so there's a couple of things. First of all, my background in graphic design helped me immensely to design my handbags. Of course, they were just 2D, 3D mock-ups that I was doing myself. But then I found a design studio who developed my ideas into the real thing, like prototypes. So having that background in graphic design helped me. But then, in terms of industry, let's say from New York to London, I'm kind of a social girl. Yeah, I go out a lot.
You have been called the New York disco queen.
No, but I mean, yeah, I have a network of people from, like people from the fashion industry, art, music. And when I started Tara Zadeh in London, I had people that were, they were rooting for me, some girls that were influencers, really top influencers in London. And I was also very fortunate that I knew one of the buyers of Moda Operandi. So Moda Operandi, it's basically you can directly buy what comes out of from the runway. And so I was very fortunate they did a trunk show of Tara Zadeh the summer of 2017. And that was crazy because, it's followed by editors, all press people, celebrities. And so I started getting random emails. Like it was like a tsunami. Honestly, it was insane. I didn't know what to do with it. It was also new to me, and that was the time where I was like, okay, I think I need to get a PR to deal with press, because I need to deal with logistics and designing the next collection and dealing with day-to-day stuff. And press, I just can't handle answering people. And I was getting called by the different celebrities. Oh, Sarah Sampaio, she's a Victoria's Secret model. She was going to like one of these big Vogue events in New York, and her stylist contacted me asking for a selection of handbags. And so things like that, my
Right.
PR would deal with that.
Not a bad problem to have.
No, super. No, it was it was insane. It was in all these different publications, and I mean, I wasn't tagged. It wasn't like, oh, Sarah Sampaio is wearing Tara Zadeh. It wasn't like that. But people recognized the Azar clutch,
Right.
and it got reshared a lot on Instagram. And my friends were tagging me on, like, it was on Vogue, WWD, and people were like, oh, she's wearing Tara Zadeh. Anyway.
I love, by the way, that it's the Azar clutch that is your signature, because I think my mom's
Yes.
Persian name is Azar, and
Yes.
so that's close to my heart. I want to ask you about the design of the clutch, but just take me back to that moment, because especially for an Iranian kid who's done so well, you go to Parsons, which is a major school of design, the new school. You graduate. You're working at these major magazines. You have a really good job at Gentleman's Journal. You're only in your late 20s at that point. You could be forgiven for settling into a lifelong career in that field when you're doing so well. Tell me about the precipitant or that decision to say, okay, I'm going to actually leave the safety, the cocoon of having this good job with an established institution and start my own thing.
Yeah, so I have a really great group of girlfriends in London, some of them who were starting their brand at that time. One was doing jewelry, one was doing hats. And I was like, you know what, it's so empowering, and we're the similar age. They also one had a background in business and just was going into fashion. And I was like, you're having discussion with friends and you're like, yeah, I could do this. It's like now or never, I mean, not now or never, but I don't know. It's really an exciting time. And I thought, why not? And I guess also I'm lucky that I had the support of my family, of my parents, that that is very, I had the financial support of my mother. That's undeniably not given to everybody. So, when I presented the project to my mom, I had done a lot of research. I had put a whole dossier together. I had found the studio in London, the cost of it, the breakdown, how long it was going to take me to develop my first prototype. So I had a solid plan to present to my mom.
I was actually going to ask you, that was my next question. Did you have the idea of wanting to go solo with your own brand first, or did you have the idea of the specific handbag first?
So I know you might ask me this question, but I took a trip to Iran end of 2016. Took my boyfriend at the time. It was maybe his second or third time there with me, and this time we took a whole. We went everywhere. Not everywhere. Iran is very, very enormous, but we went to Esfahan, Kashan, Shiraz, and I was telling my husband, I was like, oh my god, I know what I'm gonna do. I know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know, it was, stars and light bulb. My whole idea for my brand became clear. I was seeing all these geometric forms in my mind, and then I started drawing them in my little sketchbook. And so that was part of my plan, and I think my mom really liked it, because I was thinking for a long time, what am I going to call it? My name is Tara Ghazanfar, and I wanted to make something up, but it took me so long. I didn't have any ideas. I was like, I'm just going to call it my name. But my mom's last name is Youssef Zadeh. And so I took the Zadeh because, obviously it means born of, and it has a nice, nice tone to it, and it makes sense. And I don't know, my mom was really happy about that. And so yeah, I don't know. Does that answer your question?
It does. In terms of, you had this idea. I actually want to. You're right. I do want to get to the Iran piece and the inspiration that comes from Iran and being Iranian. But just for a moment to stick with the Azad clutch and the handbag, because I know you've also said that you loved handbags your whole life. This is it wasn't like this just came to you. You've trafficked in handbags. You've carried around handbags.
I was known to always have these cool pieces, not designers, just random bags that I would find, because I traveled a lot. And so bags that I would find in markets, bazaars, and, from South America to Middle East, Tunisia, Morocco. And I was just always known to have these colorful, weird shaped handbags.
So obviously people can Google you, and we'll put up photos on people who are watching this. But in terms of the folks who are listening to this as a podcast, can you describe the genius that is the Tara Zadeh clutch bag? What is it about it that made it different? I guess now it's been knocked off by major designers, as you say.
Also, the fact that it's a round bag, a bracelet bag, so that was totally new. Just the way you hold the bag, you put it around your arm. Like I said before, both of your hands are free, and then the geometric form. It's a triangular, a square, and a circle.
It's an interesting collision for you, because you're really into design and even architecture, and then you're also into colors and spiritual richness, and so you throw that all together, and that's what we see in that handbag, right?
Yeah, because I started doing it in simple colors. Well, actually, no, my first collection, I had it in off-white, black. Then I had this very strong red, purple, and blue. And then after that, I can't even tell you, I did it in pink PVC and black PVC. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun with it, because I love playing with colors and textures. And so yeah, I had my signature pieces, and then every season I would introduce new styles, but then the signature pieces, I would develop it in different colors and material. Yeah.
By the way, for people listening, when I called you the New York Disco Queen, it probably sounded like I was being sassy and just using a moniker. But that's actually what one of your closest friends called you that, right?
Yeah, okay, I'll take that. Yeah, he's not. It's not wrong.
So let's get to the identity piece, because it's certainly one of the most interesting things about you and your success. When people ask you where you're from, you always say Iranian. And on the face of it, that is counterintuitive. It's surprising for a kid born in the U.S., reared in Paris and based in London, who's never lived in Iran. Why do you think you self-identify so strongly as Iranian?
Why? I don't know. Like, man, I feel so Iranian. It's so part of who I am, even though I speak in Farsi with such a strong lajje. I go back every year. I still have family there. And I also just hate that people see Iran. They don't see Iran for its people. They always talk about, like, I mean, even people from my husband's family, like when I was taking him to Iran, they're like, "Oh, is it safe?" I'm like, "Oh my God, of course it's safe." I mean, it's like the safe place, one of the safest place in the Middle East. It's just all this, this image that people have of Iran. That's why I started Zanai also, but I don't know.
But think about it. Think about it for a moment, because it dovetails with so much so with what we talk about a fair bit on this show. In fact, frankly, it's part of the raison d'etre for this show, which is here you are, somebody who was born in Houston, not New York, but you've lived, in the major centers of the iconic centers of Western civilization, of Western culture, London, New York, Paris. But you can't quit Iran, even though you've never lived there. I get it, of course, because I'm hosting this show and I've never lived there. But I'm on the ongoing quest to figure out why. And I want to. I mean, it's our family background. You visited there a few times, but what is it that makes you feel like in your DNA this is who you are?
I don't know. It's such a tough question. I don't know, honestly. Because like I said, I grew up. I speak Farsi to my mom. All her friends are Iranian in Paris. Yeah, we do Nowruz. I mean, I don't know. I would go once a year, maybe twice a year. I don't know. I just really feel Iranian.
One of the ironies is that some people who either live in Iran or who have recently left Iran and moved to the West would consider you really Khariji. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah. Even when I go there, I have my cousin who lives there. He's like, "Oh my God, you're so Khariji. I can see from a mile away. The way you walk, I can see that you're Farangi." I'm like, from the way I walk, he's like, "Yeah."
I know they say that. I don't know what the walk is. I'm trying. I want to walk. I want to learn to walk like an Iranian. I don't get it.
I want to walk like an Iranian. Oh my God. And also, I'm not against nose jobs. Everybody has a nose job around me, but I didn't have a nose job, and everybody has a nose job in Tehran, at least. I didn't go that way.
So did you grow up very Persian in your household?
In a way, we kept all the traditions. We speak Farsi. We kept all the traditions. My mom cooks Iranian food.
Your mom, by the way, is fascinating. She's a ethnomusicologist, right?
Yes. And she specializes in Iranian music. Bard Khorasan. It's a region in Iran. Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal. I mean, to have that, to be surrounded by that growing up.
Yeah. I always thought that there's two stereotypes of the Iranian family. Either it's crazy, like, a bit of too much party and or like super conservative. Me, let's be clear, and I did not grow up in a conservative environment, that's for sure. Not at all. My uncle is gay. My grandfather was more than welcoming, more than he was like, he told him when he was super at a very young age, he was, I'm not going to say happy about it, but he was very accepting of it.
I'm quite envious of you, because you grew up in a very sort of adventurous family. I know your dad he comes from a prominent family, but and was sort of has lived a adventurous lifestyle. I'm not sure how to put it. And so you didn't grow up in that mold that we've talked about a lot on this program of you need to be a doctor or engineer. You need to sort of fit into the Persian girl stereotypes, right?
Not at all. I mean, if I would tell my mom I want to get married at the age of 20, she would have slapped me in the face. Like, she wanted me to be independent, to follow my dreams, work hard. I feel very lucky because, when I compare myself to like some other friends of mine, including my friend Nika, with who I co-founded Zanae, she was, now they're very, they're very proud of her. She has a fashion brand also. She does handbags. Now they're very proud of her and all that. But yeah, she was, not forced, but they were really pushing her to go into the business, economics, that industry. Whereas for myself, never, ever, ever, ever. So from an early age, my mom was sending me, when I was 16, she sent me to summer school at Rhode Island School of Design. Then the year after, I went to Yale University summer school intensive course of graphic design.
Wow.
So like, she was preparing me because, in France, you don't have SATs, you don't have all these extracurriculum things. So when you're applying to universities,
okay, so wait a second. They didn't force you into doctor or engineer, but they sent you to Yale at the age of 16. So
summer intensive school. No, but I wanted to go there. I wanted to go there.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me about the trajectory of visiting Iran so many times, like once a year since you've said for your entire life, right? Or even a couple times a year. With this fondness that you felt, this connection to Iran, was it ever a consideration for you to move to Iran?
It's funny because just when I was walking home, I live in St. John's Wood in London, and there's a lot of Iranians, a lot of Iranian restaurants. Just went to get my eyebrows done. The lady it's an Iranian-owned beauty salon, and I was just walking back home, and there's this restaurant called Cello. Mm-hmm. And this guy was on the phone, the guy who works there, and he's speaking Farsi, and it's so weird. Like, I wanted to cry. I got like emotional, Yeah, I really miss Iran right now. I haven't been in 2.5 years.
But would you live there?
Would I live there? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so because, people are not that free. There's a lot of things that you're not allowed to do. And I like my freedom, and I'm very lucky to have my freedom. And I feel lucky that I can visit Iran, back and forth.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I would live there. No.
That's something that Iranians say to me is some Iranians who live in Iran have said to me, it's interesting that you consider all these great things about Iran, but given the choice, you wouldn't.
Exactly.
The underpinning of those statements is, but I still get that it's not the idyllic society that I want it to be. Tell us a little bit about what exactly you discovered in Iran that has so inspired your work. It's been pretty all-consuming. You've talked about everything from the architecture to the food culture. Can you put it into words what it is that so inspires you?
Well, it's quite hard for me because it's, as a creative person, you're inspired in your daily life, and for me, this trip to Iran, where literally it was very special to me because it was the time where I was thinking of starting my own fashion brand. And it's very subtle. It's not like you would look at my bag and say, oh, wow, this is so Persian. No, it's subtle. It's in the geometric, it's in the shapes, the vibrant colors. I think it's a whole thing. It's hard for me. I don't think I can really put it into words, but it's, the mosques and the palaces and all the shapes and the strong colors. Yeah, I think that's what inspired me to start my first collection, at least. Yeah.
You are identified. I mean, when people write about you, they call you an Iranian designer. Are you?
I like that.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I like that. It's important to me, actually.
So why is that important to you?
And again, that's why I started Zanae. Like, not saying I'm established or anything, but all these emerging designers, like, be proud of, it shouldn't be a stop, or it shouldn't be negative, or that you're Iranian. You should take advantage of that,
Tell us about. I was going to get to Zanae, but you might as well. You started talking about it now. Tell us about Zanae, the inspiration for it, the instigation of it, and what you're doing with it.
Yeah, we started it during lockdown. A good friend of mine, Nika, who the way we met is we were both participating at London Fashion Week, and she came to introduce herself, and we both kind of understood that we were both Iranian, got really excited about it. And then Nika was like, wow, it's so cool that there's another Iranian designer. They're so rare. She comes from a very business law background, all that. So, and I was like, oh my God, you have no idea of the number of Iranian people, but even people that you don't know, like, I don't know, it's not world known that India Mahdavi, for example, is Iranian, or this famous editor in London, Carolina Issa, or the list is long anyway. And I was like, and she's like, oh my God, we should do something about that. Like, these people should meet and we should create an event. And then we both got pregnant, and then we were busy with our work. And then lockdown happened, and I was like, okay, I think this is the time to start doing it, and do it through Instagram, and start interviewing, doing a series of live interview with women who are established, who have made it in their field. It goes from, makeup artist to a cook, to a writer, to a fashion designer, to a jewelry designer. The creative industry is quite broad, but it's funny because all the women, literally most of all the women that we interviewed, they all said that their dads want them to become doctors or lawyers, and they just went a different route. So we started this just to shine light on the people of Iran. And I wanted to do it. It was important for us to do it about women, just because, I think it's very current, and the creative industry not being a hobby. Basically, you can actually be successful and make a living by being a painter, or by being a jewelry designer, or by being a cook. So that was what was important for us. So we started doing one live interview a week, and then it got so much attention, and people were so excited about it. And also people who were non-Iranians. I had so many messages from friends or random people just saying, wow, I love learning about these incredible women and their journey and what they've accomplished. And because, they all touch a bit about, some of them grew up in Iran and then left, or there is this connection with Iran one way or the other. So, yeah.
It sounds like a fabulous project. Kudos to you for doing it.
Thank you.
Were you always this interested in all things Iranian? I mean, when you, as a teenager, say, in England, or even when you were in New York, was that in you? Was this, or is this something that's flowered and evolved as you've gotten to the old age of 30 something?
I think Iran is quite a fascinating country. Through the media, it's not shown in the best light, because of politics and theocracy, all that. But, actually, I can go back to Marjan Satrapi when the book Persepolis came out, remember?
Yep.
So I feel like that was the first time that people, I was in Paris at the time, yeah? So that just international people were kind of...
paying attention to us,
learning, paying attention to Iran, and I was like, this is the story of so many people out there, and so it was funny. And
can I just stop there? Can I just stop there, because we don't? I don't always talk about Marjan Satrapi. That book, I must have bought that book for 100 people, because it was so. It felt revolutionary, not just because it was a graphic novel and the storytelling was great and all of that, but because it was just so cool. And it was like, oh, this is something cool that's being done by an Iranian that I can show to people that exactly as you've been saying through this interview, undermines these stereotypes that we're all a certain way. You know, even if people don't think that we're terrorists, you know, they might think, oh, you know, it's this old kind of culture or whatever. And here's this woman who comes out with this incredible graphic novel. So go ahead. Yes.
No. So it was, you know, people started becoming like, you know, asking questions about Iran. Oh, so you're Iranian? Oh, so tell us. Nah, nah, nah. And so it was quite interesting that time, I remember. And yeah, in New York less actually. Like I think it started really when I moved to London, because I started meeting more Iranian people, and I had some friends that I grew up with, because I lived in London from 6 months old to 7 years old. When my mom was living here, she had a lot of Iranian friends, and we were all kids the same age. We grew up together, and so I started hanging out with them again when I moved back here. I just think that people are kind of fascinated by Iran, and I just, you know, good in a good way or in a bad way, in a not so, in a complex, you know. And so I just wanted to, it was important for me to do something.
Not fascinating enough to you to find an Iranian life partner, though, right? You're
Well, I didn't find any. I wasn't against it, honestly. I would have loved.
You couldn't find one?
No,
okay.
No, I couldn't find one.
So
I met my husband in New York, though. But yeah.
So your husband, the non-Iranian, you guys got married 3 or 4 years ago, right?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. And I don't know if this is a rumor or the reality, or I want you to clear this up for me. Is it true that you flew back to Iran 3 times to have your wedding dress fitted?
Oh, more than that.
It doesn't seem like a very economical way of doing it. So what's the story behind that?
Well, Eva, what was her name?
By the way, it makes you sound like a really privileged kid to keep flying back to Iran.
I was very lucky. Yeah, no, for sure. But like I said, I also have my grandparents that were there, and my grandfather was, you know, he passed like 6 months before my wedding, so I was going back there a lot, because he was not in a good shape, and my mom was spending a lot of time there, obviously. So she lives in New York, but she was spending a lot of time in Tehran. So it was just nice for the family to gather. My grandmother, my grandmother and my mom was taking me to the couturière. How do you call that in English? The
tailor?
Seamstress?
Tailor.
Yes, the designer. And so I had an idea of how, Shadi Palang, that's her name, Shadi Palang. And I had an idea of how I wanted my dress. And to be honest, if I had made my dress in I don't know, in London or wherever outside Iran, it might have cost 10 times the price.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, can I just tell you something fun? Our 4th guest ever on Roqe, maybe even our 3rd guest ever on Roqe, was Shadi from
No way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, she's very innovative, you know. Yeah, and she makes these very specific kind of dresses, and so that this is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had to keep going back to get fitted by her.
Yeah. So I think my mom knew her, or my grandma, anyway, and so she was highly recommended. And I went to meet her. I mean, she has the most amazing house in Tehran. It's like so old school, like, oh man, it's amazing. And so I was going there every couple months here and there, and then I lost a lot of weight before my wedding, so she had to like tidy it up again. And she came to London for some work, and she brought the dress, and then I tried it, and it was just perfect. It was perfection. It was literally my dream dress, and she executed it perfectly. Yeah. And
your wedding dress has become the inspiration for you in some of your design, right?
I mean, my wedding dress is a bit crazy. Huh? I had like feathers and flowers, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this dress is so you! You could take it to Burning Man." But I think it was just very me. You know, my husband was telling my girlfriends, "The dress is going to be simple, huh? It's going to be simple." And they're like, "Just Jeremy, there's one thing. It is not a simple dress." Okay. So yeah. But I just think it was very me, and Yeah.
I want to finish off by asking about your audience, because you obviously have had this. You're a successful designer, and you also have a pretty big following on social media. Who does your audience tend to be?
Girls in their mid 20s to mid 40s. Actually, it's quite broad. Yeah. Like I have some students also following me, and it was quite interesting to see that. I think my bags were a bit too expensive at some point for my audience, because when I lowered the price down, I sold way more. So I don't know. I always wanted to have this like high end brand, but then it's not really me. I wanted to make it more affordable, and they're way more affordable now, and I like it that way because it just makes more sense to me. But my biggest audience is in the U.S., New York, East Coast, and then London and France, and then quite a few in the Middle East, because I was selling in Doha and Bahrain, and then also in Turkey. So yeah, quite international. Oh, Brazil a lot also, because I had a couple of these influencers that were wearing a lot of my designs, and so they had a very big following, and so Brazil all of a sudden, yeah.
And I was wondering if Iranians, and especially those who are quite fashion interested or even fashion forward in the Iranian community around the world, and even in Iran, know that these designs are from an Iranian designer. I mean, obviously, if they see your name or they see Azad Clutch, they might know. But do they?
All my bags have an Iranian name.
Yes, you've named each of your handbags has a Persian name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and what are some of the names?
Ziba, Mahin, it's my grandmother's name. Sirus, my brother's name. Yeah, oh my god, I can't remember right now, but yeah.
So
Roya,
Roya,
Roshan. Yeah.
Do Iranians know you're Iranian?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Do you have a following in Iran?
Well, you know what? Through Zanae, I started having more of a following. Yeah, more of an Iranian crowd. And then Bahar interviewed me, and we did a live interview together. And
Bahar Islami?
Yes, yes. And she has a very big following in Iran, and yeah, so a lot of Iranians started discovering me, because she was saying, she's like, oh, people don't know you enough in Iran. And she's right, yeah.
You've mentioned a couple of times you had a baby not too long ago. Your son is maybe a couple years old?
He's 2 years old.
2 years old.
1 week.
And you got a new one on the way.
I do.
How has motherhood changed? Here you are, this dynamic, free spirit, very ambitious, successful person. How has being a parent changed all that, or has it?
I didn't think I was going to love motherhood this much, to be honest. I thought it was going to be more like, yeah, I can leave my baby, do all the things that I used to do, travel, all that. No. I'm obsessed with him, and until you have kids, like I didn't know this. With this, there's this feeling. It just takes over your whole body. Like it's crazy. I can't even explain it. And yeah, I didn't know that was even possible. I didn't even know what that was. But no, I'm very present mother. For a whole year, I didn't have a nanny. It was lockdown. I was home with my baby, with my son. He started going to nursery at the age of 1.5, and he loves it. He's a very social, dynamic kid, like his mommy. and yeah, no, we drop him off at school in the morning with my husband. I pick him up every day, and no, I love him so much, and I can't wait to have the second one. And it's another boy, so they're going to be best buddies, hopefully. They'll just be like 2 years and 2 months apart. So, yeah. Have
you thought about, well, you've probably thought about it. Where have you landed in terms of wanting to bring these kids up with some sort of Iranian identity?
So this is the whole thing. I try really hard to speak Farsi. Things that when I started speaking in Farsi, my son's called Gabriel. when I started speaking to him in Farsi, my husband was like, "Oh, but I don't understand. I don't understand." I'm like, "Okay, but I mean, I need to speak to him in Farsi. Like, I'm gonna regret it my whole life because I have Iranian friends who are like, why did why did my mom not speak to me in Farsi?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they
yeah.
regret it. Both sides regret it. So I'm like, I need to. But then, you know, we came back from holidays. After the summer, I remember I was like, okay, I really need to make an effort. So I started speaking Farsi to him, and he's just standing there looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? So then I just switched back in French because we speak French at home.
Uh-huh.
He goes to nursery, so he speaks in English at school, nursery. Um, but no, my mom doesn't see him that much, but we FaceTime a lot, and she's so funny because she speaks in Farsi, then she throws in some words in French and English, and I'm like, why, you're confusing the poor kid. Stick to one language.
And what about what is your husband's first language?
French.
French.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So French is going to probably win the day to a certain extent.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
All right.
But he calls my husband Baba. I love that. He only says Baba. I said this is so important to me, and I just started teaching him Baba, and he said yes.
Does your French husband, who you met in New York, does he like all things Iranian? Like when you went and you had that eureka experience in Iran, did he get it?
He loves it. He loves it. Yeah, and he was the first time we went. He was so funny. He was so surprised in a good way. He had I don't know what he was thinking. First of all, the rusari. He thought you wore the rusari literally like just above the eyebrows.
Right.
Like
you figured it was Taliban. Yeah.
Yeah, and we went the first time we went, it was winter time. He's like, oh my god, but it's actually so chic. Because they wear just like a headscarf and just throw it on. And even me, because the thing is that I don't live there, so I think I'll be maybe more of a rebel if I was living there, but I don't live there, so I'm more careful. He's like, no, but look at the girls, look, they just put it there, it's okay. So yeah, and we spent New Year's once. That was actually the last time we were there, 2.5 years ago. We spent New Year's in Kashan. Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed. We just had so much fun.
Can you cook Persian food?
Yes, I started during lockdown.
Okay.
I had never cooked before Iranian food, and to be honest, I was like, so my favorite food is albalu polo.
Okay.
And albalu polo, you never eat it in restaurants. Slow cook, like you literally do not have it in any Iranian restaurant.
Yeah.
And so okay, I'm just gonna do it myself. Like there's Iranian groceries, like there's all the ingredients. I can get everything. So I just started, looking at a recipe, and I made that. I made fisenjoon, which is my husband's favorite dish.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And then for my whole
is your fisenjoon torsh or shikari?
Shikari, yeah.
Okay.
More on the shikari side. But then my in-laws who live in Paris, I did this whole like, oh my god, I had salad olivier, misra qasemi, kashke bademjoon. I did everything I could think of. I had never done that in my entire life, and it was so nice. It was really nice. Yeah.
It's a great pleasure to get to talk to you. I probably should have asked you more questions about fashion and your brand, but I see that almost all of your interviews are about that. So I thought we'd learn a little bit about you as well as your great design prowess. Tell me before I let you go, Tara, where so you've got Tara Zadeh, you've got Zanai, you've got a burgeoning, growing family. Where do you want to take things in the coming years?
I want to take Zanai to the big public. I would love to. Nika and I, we would love to work on a TV series and do a series of short 20-30 minutes, like kind of documentary on all these different talents. How you have like Chef's Table on Netflix or something like that. One episode on Gulshifte Farani, one episode on India Martavi. Yeah, that would be the dream. So we're working towards that.
That's very doable. What about in your design world?
I have a new collection coming out next week. I don't think I mentioned this, but I stopped working with all the retailers and doing wholesale. I'm just producing a small collection that I'm going to be selling only via my website. Yeah.
You're doing the Shadi Parent. That's her kind of model, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, I think it's the way to go. I think it's the future. And I was lucky enough to, people heard about me through thanks to the press and all. Like I was on Net-a-Porter, all this. So I feel like, yeah, it's a good time to do that. Just go direct to consumer.
Thanks so much for doing this today. I hope we see you next time we're in London, or even better, I hope you come visit Canada.
Yes. Where are you guys exactly?
Toronto.
Great. I have my uncle. My uncle lives there.
Well, there you go. I was going to say, if you're feeling nostalgic when you walk by a guy speaking Farsi, you just got to come to Toronto. They're all here.
Yeah. I need to come. I've never been. So,
you must.
Definitely.
Thank you for this. Take care of yourself. Good luck with the new little one. And look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you. It was lovely speaking to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tara Ghazanfar is a fashion designer and the woman behind the acclaimed line Tara Zadeh. She's also the co-founder of a new project discovering and celebrating creative Iranian women called Zanai. We reached Tara Ghazanfar in London, England today. Well, my next guest is an Iranian-American producer, casting director, photographer, and the CEO of Cinematown Studios, based in Los Angeles. Not bad for someone who's still in her early 30s. Manush Nabavi was born and raised in Tehran in an artistic family. She started working in the movie and entertainment industry at the age of 10 and established her own media company when she was 18. She continued her path in Tehran until 2010 when she immigrated to Los Angeles. And during the first couple of years in LA, she established herself as an international award-winning photographer. Her photography work has been displayed in different galleries around the world in cities such as Los Angeles, Moscow, Paris, Tokyo, and New York. And Manush was awarded one of the top 6 photographers in LA by Expertise Publication 3 years in a row, as well as other distinctions. More recently, she has established her own film studio. Manush is the CEO of a motion picture studio in Los Angeles called Cinematown, with the intention of creating a space that can give back to the eager, independent film community. And right now, Manush Nabavi joins me from Los Angeles, California. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Khasta nabashid. Nice to have you. I understand that you were shooting all night. Is that right?
Yes. I haven't slept probably for the past week because I was working 7 days a week, probably between 12 to 17 hours a day.
Wow. Yeah. That doesn't bode well for this interview. Did you at least do a shot of espresso or something before talking to me?
I did.
What is it that you're shooting right now? That's 17-hour days.
So yesterday we were shooting a music video with a famous rock band, and so we were shooting outside. It was an outdoor shoot in a pool, and then in the morning we were shooting on a green screen. So it was a full day. We started at 8 all the way till like midnight, and it was like 2 days. But like I have like thousands of projects I'm working at the same time. So basically,
so they're shooting at your film studio. Is that the idea?
Yes. Yesterday morning we shot at the studio, and then we had a company move to a house. And
so when they shoot at your studio, are you involved in the actual shooting, or are you overseeing? You're basically executive producing it?
It just depends on the project. Sometimes I'm doing like location managing, or sometimes I have my own productions where I'm a producer and I bring everyone there to shoot. But Yeah, it just depends on what type of project it is. For the one that we were shooting yesterday, I was casting directing for him, but I also, I always love to support artists. So I just told them, hey, like they wanted to shoot a green screen um, at a house, and it was kind of like difficult. I was like, why don't you guys just shoot it here gratis?
Nice,
So,
nice. And because you're such an acclaimed photographer, when they're shooting it, when somebody's behind the camera who isn't you, do you like push them aside at some point and go, no, it's not done like that, and like yell at them and make sure it's done the right way?
I try to hold myself because I don't like to interfere in people's.
The Persians have a temper. I mean, you have to be careful. These photographers.
Yes, I mean, if someone is like really doing something that they shouldn't be doing, I may just like give them an advice on the side, but I don't like to really interfere in someone else's project unless it's my own project and someone is messing up, and then I have to take care of it.
I mean, Manoosh, reading your bio, you sound like a very ambitious person, to say the least. Are you?
I try to be, yes.
Why are you so ambitious?
Well, I mean, I think it's because of the family I was, raised by. And like since childhood, I was the same way. I was always like organized and disciplined. And my parents wanted me to be disciplined always. And like one of the main reasons was my parents, and also Reza Kianian, a very famous Iranian actor. He's like my uncle. I have so much respect for him. These people always been pushing me, and they were like, you gotta go get it. Like, we're not gonna help you, but like this is the way. Like, you have to find your way, and if you need help, we will help you. But
just out of curiosity, what does discipline mean to you? What's an example of being disciplined?
To basically just to have a goal and just like step by step, like organizing how you want to achieve that goal. And like I always write everything down, and I used to do this all the time. Like, and discipline means like, okay, I have this to-do list, I have this task, and how am I going to achieve them?
You're hyper organized.
I mean, however you say, but
well, it sounds like you're very organized. You're juggling a number of things. You've got a number of projects on the go. You're the CEO of a film studio, albeit a new one. Listen, I really like people who are organized. Anybody on the team here will tell you how much I like if somebody's got that kind of discipline. I think that's brilliant. Although you allow yourself to pull all-nighters when you've got a project. Apparently, that the discipline doesn't extend to giving yourself a break at night.
I try to balance my life. It's a hard industry to work in. Long hours are not really easy, but I have to live too. It's not only about working. Sometimes I just get too excited. I want to do everything at the same time. It's
impressive that you decided to establish your own film studio. Tell me about setting up CinemaTown and why you opted to do that rather than, I don't know, work as a producer or a casting director in whatever capacity with a big established film company.
The very first time I got here, I had to work for different people. I was volunteering. I was not getting paid. I was, like there were a lot of people that I was working for, but at the same time I was thinking like they're not treating me the way that I deserve to be treated, or so I kind of wanted to be my own boss, and I didn't want to struggle anymore. And I struggled a lot because a lot of people may think that, oh, she's rich, and like, because I hear these things a lot, and that's not the reality. The reality is that I had this goal. I always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I always wanted to help filmmakers because I struggled a lot myself. I figured, because I had this idea about 5-6 years ago, to open up this studio. I had the business plan, but due to some, circumstances, I couldn't do it back then. And then when COVID hit, I lost all my jobs, and it was tough. And that was when I was like, I'm not going to be sitting in the house doing nothing. I have to achieve the goal that I had. And I tried to push myself, and I found this place. I kept like contacting them, hey, like I'm interested. And then we represented our business plan and they loved it, and we started building it. Like literally, I was going to Home Depot every single day, bringing lumber by myself. I feel like I'm a contractor now myself.
Nice. Why do you think? Do you think thinking that you're? It's interesting that you say people thought you were rich. I mean, do you think that's a Persian thing to sort of see someone who's doing well, especially when they're young, and say that she must be a rich kid?
So, I mean, I don't know if I can like say it's Persian, but I've heard it more from Persian. But I also had like people who are non-Persian thinking that, oh, like she just have everything. But like because of the family I have like in Iran, because my father is a professor of cinema and my mom is a stage and costume designer, and like they were like, oh, like she can do anything she wants, but it's not true because my dad never gave me that opportunity, and I love that because he challenged me so I could like stand on my feet. But yeah, sometimes people just judge you, and I don't think if it's nice to do that. Like how people can judge you when they don't know anything about you. I think because that's what they see from outside, but they don't know the struggle you've gone through and the hard work that you've been doing. So they just judge.
The people at Home Depot know. They know how hard you've worked. You talk about your parents, and I mean, I guess it's not a big surprise that you're finding success in your early 30s, given that you started so young. I mean, this story that you began working in the movie and entertainment industry at the age of 10 in Tehran. I've heard of child actors, but what does a 10-year-old do as work in the film industry?
Well, so when I was a kid, I was always going on set with my parents because back then they didn't have a babysitter or anything. So basically they would my parents used to work together on different projects. They would take me on set and they would be like, shut up, stay here, don't talk, and like go play and don't make any noise. and then I really loved acting. And I always thought I'm going to be an actress, actually. So I started with acting at age 10. So I was like acting in these plays for kids. After I graduated in photography and filmmaking, I started my acting career in Iran. So I was acting in plays with Mohammad Rahmanian, Afshin Hashemi, Ahmad Saadjian, all these great people. And then right after I moved to the US, so that acting career was shut down.
Okay, but didn't you you also started a media company when you were 18 in Tehran, right?
Yeah, I always wanted to have a studio, and I didn't have a camera. I had a very cheap camera that I was using, and I needed that expensive camera. And I asked my dad, hey, I need it. I wanna have lighting. I wanna open this studio. And he's like, I'm not gonna be helping you. I mean, if you need help, I'll help you later. But how are you going to achieve it? I'm just not going to pay you that much to get a camera and light because it's expensive. Then at that age, I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. So I started building jewelries, and I was having those jewelry shows at my house for a year. Then after a year, I was able to purchase that camera and lighting and set up a studio. So that's how it started.
I really like the twist in the story with your parents, with your dad, because I mean, the fact that you do all that you do now, it seems natural that you come from, and part of your bio is you come from an artistic family, and the implication is that your family therefore enabled and supported you going into this path. But you're saying that your parents actually didn't encourage you to go into this, right? So tell me about that.
They were seeing the reality. From day one, my dad was telling me, this is a cruel and difficult industry. You gotta be really tough. Can you be tough? And I was stubborn. I was like, of course I can be tough. What are you talking about? And then of course, any other Persian parents, my dad wanted me to be a doctor. And it's funny because my dad's side's family everybody is doctors beside my dad. And I told him, like, you told your own parents that I don't want to be a doctor, and why are you expecting me to be a doctor? What do you see in me? And so I was fighting with him a lot about that. But now I really, really appreciate everything he has done for me, him and my mom, and also Reza Kianian. Like, I admire these people so much. They pushed me so hard. And at first, like, I was fighting with them. I was like, no, you're just being mean. Like, because like I was taking photos back then and it wasn't digital. So I had to go to the darkroom and like print all these photos. And I was going to my dad, and he was like, after like hours printing, he was telling me, this is trash, trash, trash. Yeah, this one is not bad. I'm like, Dad, like, I spent hours on this. And he's like, go reshoot. And then he kept pushing me like
That's
that.
good. I mean, tough love, I guess. He wanted to make you better.
Yes. When I got to the college here and I was taking those photography classes, one thing I noticed was like, all these people that are going to school here, they have this self-confidence that they think, oh, they're the king of the world. Because most of the instructor, instead of giving them a right critique, they're just like, great job, you did amazing. And then there is a portrait which a tree is coming out of a head, and I'm just like, dude, like, this is not, like, why do you say that? Like, you gotta tell them this is not good, so you go reshoot. And then I was comparing that to the education I was having in Iran. I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy I took those courses in Iran and I graduated there, because in Iran they're not like, oh, you're great, you're amazing, you're the best photographer in the world.
So in a field like photography, you're making the case that you actually benefited from the Iranian education system more so than the Western one, in terms of them being tougher on you, than the bar being higher.
Yes. I'm really happy about that.
Let me ask you, I mean, you know, Iran is not it's not exactly known as the land of opportunity for young people and you know, in creative types especially. But you seem like you were doing pretty well by your early 20s. I mean, you're, as you just said, you've been acting in plays, you were doing photography, you had set up this media company, you had a bunch of things going on. What was the breaking point? What was the precipitant for you to decide to leave all of that, leave Iran, and come to the States?
Well, I mean, I could do anything I want in Iran, and everything was easy for me. I like to be challenged. I wasn't seeing a future because I don't like to be limited. I don't like people to tell me, oh, you have to censor this part. Like, you have to change this part. You can't do this. You can't do that. And I wasn't seeing a bright future that much, because I'm a type of person who likes to be challenged and grow and learn, you know, just be more involved in a new culture, like learn more about like how Hollywood works, how these people work in here. So when I got here, I just said, put that ego away, because that's not going to get me anywhere. Over here, nothing is achieved easily. You have to work really, really hard. The competition in this industry is really difficult. But if you have a goal and if you work hard, you'll get it. But in Iran, I'm not sure, like, if you work really hard, how far you can get.
You're clearly very good at capturing people on camera. And you had this bug in you. You had this desire for photography from an early age. What do you think? I mean, I'm sure you've reflected upon it, given that you won all those awards and everything. What makes you such a good photographer?
I always used to pay attention to details a lot. I used to pay attention to people. So when I was going out, I was looking at people, like how they walk, how they talk, how they eat, or like even like different locations. When I was seeing something, I was like capturing it in my mind, that how would this lighting make this subject look good? I was always like thinking about things. And I'm a social person. I interact with people a lot, and I get to know their personalities. And when I'm taking portraits, I want to bring that personality out. And I think it's just basically paying attention to details. I I care about a lot of stuff.
Tell me about getting into the producing and the production coordination and the casting director and all that, the studio now. Why was photography not enough?
Well, I mean, it's not about not being enough. It's just like as years passed by, I figured everyone calls themselves photographers, and people were coming to me. They were like, "Oh, your camera is great." And I'm just like, camera is not taking the photo. If you don't have the knowledge, like, it's not like I'm putting it on auto and I'm taking this photo.
Right.
And then, like, like, wisdom of people is so important to me. I pay so much attention to that. And, like, people were coming to me. They're like, "Oh, can you take this photo and then we're going to print it at Costco. It's $1. Why are you charging us like $20?"
Right.
And then I had to explain to them, hey, like, this is professional photography. This is professional printing. The paper itself costs like $10, like all this stuff. And then, like, nowadays, I think with social media being so popular these days and everybody's obsessed with social media, anyone who has an iPhone, they think they're a photographer.
Yeah, it's really messed with your trade, right? I mean, we've had this conversation a couple of times on this show with, say, Firuz Zahedi, the great photographer, and he just sort of says it's reshaped the industry, and that exactly what you say, that everybody walking around with their smartphone with an iPhone thinks that they can do what you do, what you're trained to do, what you and you just happen to shoot a good photo rather than the experience and expertise you bring.
Exactly. And so this was one of the things that the more time was passing, but I was seeing it more, and it's kind of disappointing to the professional industry. Anyone who is rich and is buying like expensive cameras, they think they're photographers, and they don't even know the difference between the shutter speed or like an aperture or ISO or anything like that. And they're like, "Oh, your camera is cool, so you're a great photographer." So this type of stuff was kind of like annoying to me. And I mean, I still do photography, but I only do like high-end projects. I don't do, like, I'm not like $200 photographer. I don't do that. But I always love to help people. Like, it's not always about money, but it's about them respecting you as a professional and not treating you like an amateur. But if I wasn't a photographer, I would never become a producer or a casting director. If I didn't have the background in photography and lighting and acting, I wouldn't be a casting director.
Let me ask you what it's like these days to work in Hollywood, especially on the production side, on the business side. I mean, the stereotype of the of traditional Hollywood is that women, and especially Middle Eastern folks, will get less respect than their older, whiter, more male counterparts. Have you found that in the industry, and is Cinematown something of a reaction to that?
Maybe. I've been treated so harshly a lot of times. A lot of times people put me down because when they know you're a woman, they don't really treat you well. They're like, "You don't know anything. Like, what do you know about producing? What do you know about casting?" But I've learned to just ignore that type of energy and words in my life. I don't have to, like, jealous people and people like this exist everywhere, and I don't have time to waste it by those type of people. You're
Iranian. You grew up in Iran. Your parents have done important work on the creative side in Iran. You only came here about a decade ago. You've said you're not so into working with Iranians. Why is that?
It's not like I don't like to work with them. It's like...
Be honest. The show's called Roqe. I mean, what's the problem?
I prefer not to because of the cruelty that I've seen and experienced. When you're working with the same nation as yours, they think they can, take advantages of you. Sometimes it's not like I'm saying something in general. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of good people that I would love to work with them always. But like in general, I didn't have good experience. That's why I think I'd rather just stay away from it, because I wasn't seeing I'm growing or learning or anything like that. The more I was working in Persian community, it was the same thing. There was a lot of dramas most of the time after every shoot or concerts or events that I was doing. There was dramas or people weren't getting paid or things like that. But like, I don't want to say only Persians are like that. It's not.
No, but as you're speaking, I'm looking at some of our team members here as they're listening to the interview, and they're all nodding. You know, so what you're saying is not entirely unique. I mean, people understand it. What is the drama? Why is there drama when you're working with Persians?
I think there's not enough communication ahead of time. Things are not being addressed officially. Things are not being addressed on papers. I think one thing I've learned is like the more Persian productions I was working with, there was always dramas with paperwork. People were refusing to sign. When they were signing, like they were doing the total reverse, or, you know, like artists being jealous of the other artists. There were, you know, like there is so much things
Can
happening.
I make a suggestion too? They always expect a deal. If you're working with Persians, they expect to not pay you the full amount, right?
Exactly. Like the guy comes with the latest Mercedes Benz and lives in Bel Air, and then they're like, "Oh, can you volunteer for this one? We just don't have the budget." I'm like, dude, like you're wearing head to toe Gucci, and like, how you don't have a budget for this? You know, it's just, I mean,
I don't know why. Like, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying, and I'd be shocked if there's anybody listening who of Iranian background who wouldn't understand what you're saying or wouldn't agree on some level, if not fully. And I can't figure out why we're like that. I think, I mean, maybe part of it is the fact that these fields that we work in are not as respected traditionally in our culture. Like, I mean, as opposed to, like, I don't know if an Iranian negotiates with a doctor, you know, you can do the surgery, but you got to give me a good deal, you know, like, I think it's more like it happens, you know, if you're a comedian or if you're, you know, a musician or if you're doing a freaking show, you know, or a film, I mean, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, can you just play a few songs at my party? It's good exposure for you. It is like, well, wait a minute, that's my job, you know?
Exactly. That exposure word is very familiar to me. I can write a book about the things I've gone through. Like, there is this Persian fancy luxury non-profit organization thing event that like only like very, very rich people are there. And then I was their lead photographer with my assistant, and this person comes to me like, again, like head to toe brand, and she's like, take a photo of me. I'm just like, sure. Like, and I take the photo, and then she's like, give me the print right now. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm not a printer. It's not like I take a photo and it comes out of me. Like, it takes a while for photos to be edited, and then I have to submit it. And then she's like arguing with me. Oh my God, this is not fair. This is not fair. I'm just like, how, like, what am I doing?
Yeah, and at those events, the centerpiece will be worth more on the table, will be worth more than what they pay the entertainment or something, you know. I could almost guarantee it. Yeah. Where do you want to take things, Manush? What is the ideal outcome? You seem like you know, you're a planner, as you've said, with precision. You're decisive. What's the ideal outcome for Manush in Los Angeles, say, a decade down the road?
So my main goal was to help filmmakers. Again, as I said, like, I struggled a lot, and so the reason I opened up this studio was to help them. You know, I wanted independent production to achieve like a multi-million-dollar look for a fraction of a cost. And once I'm running this, it just gives me satisfaction when people come to me and they're like, "Oh, we love this place," and like when I can help people in different aspects of production, it make me feel good. But the next step is for me to make my own movie, which I wrote a few years ago. But the thing is, I wanted to shoot in Iran, but people like changed my mind and they were like, "Don't shoot it in Iran, you have to change the script and write it in English." But it's basically kind of about my personal life, and it's actually called Behind the Scenes, and actually what's happening in reality in this industry, and as a woman who's working in this industry. But it's so emotional that every time I want to continue this script, I start crying. So, but that's the goal, to keep making my own movie. I think it's time now, but it's just like, it's a matter of me finding the right time. It's just like, I'm so busy that I can't.
Good for you. I mean, I'm sure you will make that film, but why does it make you cry when you think about it?
I don't know, because it's everything that I've gone through, and a lot of things that was really cruel and harsh for me, to tolerate. And
in Iran or in the States?
Mainly in the States after immigration. In Iran also, like, I've experienced a lot of terrible things. I usually, when I was going to places, I wasn't saying anything about my family, because my family is my family, like who I am. Like, that was important to me. And then I was doing auditions, and like the assistant director was telling me, "Oh, you want to get this role, so you have to, something like sexual," and this happens all the time. So I have all those in that script, but like, this is like the very, very normal. There's been a lot of verbal abuse for me, especially during the past year. I've gone through a lot. So like, when I'm bringing all this memory back, it's kind of like making me emotional. But I think it's good for people to see that side of this industry.
Sure. It's a pleasure getting to talk to you. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sorry that it's in the middle of your crazy week of shooting. I'm glad you did the espressos and that you were up and awake for the interview. And I look forward to seeing more of what you create and seeing you in person before too long.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Khadafis.
Merci. Khadafis.
Manush Nabavi, an Iranian-American producer, casting director, international award-winning photographer, and the CEO of Cinematown Studios. We reached Manush in Los Angeles, California today. The microphone's back on for Captain Reza Groovy and the fabulous Keon. Well, Tara Ghazanfar, Manoosh Nabavi, reactions?
Wonderful. I mean, you can't be more proud of these young Iranian women who are just like making a...
I think they're older than you. But
no, they're not.
Oh, same age as you.
Exactly the same age.
No, we're the same age.
Puts things into perspective, huh?
Yeah, it does. It's makes me proud and ashamed and upset all at the same time.
You could start a movie studio, couldn't you?
I mean, I wouldn't call that a movie studio. It's just probably a studio, photography, videography. Movie studio is slightly different. When you say movie studio, you think like Paramount, Warner Brothers, huge production.
But it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's not.
She's started, she's got a space
feasible here. Like in LA, I understand, and it's a great business model, especially and she knows how to market it well as well. Here in Toronto, I actually tried that before in the past with a friend of mine that actually, Johnny, with a buddy of mine and I. We started a production studio sort of for music videos and small budget films, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
It wasn't feasible.
I mean, I would say to the people out there, given the option of using Manush's studio or Reza's, call Manush immediately.
Listen. Stop putting kibosh into my business plan, bro. I'm trying to make a buck over here.
Hey, you guys can use our space for.
I'm telling you.
Please call Manush
Free
immediately.
coffee.
I don't know why I just imagined like a porno studio. I'm sorry.
Reza.
Hey,
I know, no.
If you
he's
pay
so
enough, you can shoot whatever you want in there. It's none of my business what you do.
Two
what you
dudes
use it
running
for.
a studio.
Those 2 hours you're renting it from me are your business.
Let's make this about the guests again.
yes.
Shaya?
Yeah, actually, I know Manush since
okay.
for many years, and actually,
I know you know her, and you know why? Because you know what she calls you.
Yeah.
In the preparation for the interview, I was talking to her a few times, and she would say, "Hey, how's Reza doing?" You know,
Me?
and I'd say hi to Reza. No, and I'd be like, "Sure," you know, thinking I got to say hi to you, Reza. You know, then it turns out she's talking about Shaya, whose real name is Reza. You know, he runs around masquerading himself. I am Shaya. He's actually just Reza. I know.
Reza.
He always
I
has
think
to
it's
be
'cause of me.
special, and he's he wears his cloaks and his beard, and I am Shaya. You know, it's the guy's name is Reza.
I don't
You
know
know,
why
Reza Abdul something or other. Muhammad Abdul Reza. I don't know.
I don't know why she insists to call me Reza.
She insists on calling.
She doesn't. I don't know, man. She doesn't even seem to know who Shaya is. I'd be like, do you mean Shaya? And she's like, Reza? Yeah, Reza.
But Shaya, you grew up in the business too, like in the industry in Iran. Did you know her growing up? Like when you were
Yeah,
a kid?
that's what I'm going to say. That I've observed that how hardworking she was and she is, and she's building, her path very with kind of ambition.
But didn't you find it? Back to what I was saying at the top of the show when I said a study in contrast. Didn't you find it interesting that, towards the end there, she's saying, I'm not as enthusiastic about working with Iranians, and then you have Tara Zadeh, who is just embracing all things Iranian as a kid who was born in Houston, grew up in London, and
but it's kind of like you, Jian.
it is like me.
right
I related to her.
100%.
I
Yeah.
know. Like you're embracing working with Iranians, starting in like Persian media, and every other like Persians we talk to or bring on to work with. They're like, I usually don't work with Iranians, but
I
I'm
know.
gonna work with you guys.
Tara and I are like, we want to embrace our roots, and you guys are like, get the fuck out of here.
Fuck the roots.
I want to get as far away from Iran as I can.
All that.
And we're like, please, I just want to go visit
We
and
want to
stay there.
attach ourselves to something.
Because it's important to. Our roots are. We can't. First of all, I said to Tara, you can't quit Iran. We can't.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of this show. And I know you guys even feel that way, despite the fact that, and clearly Manush does as well. But it is fun. It is interesting. It's like, I come from Iran. I know not to work with them. What do you? You characters, Jian, Tara, running around thinking you can work with Iranians.
We're still hopeful.
Yeah, but I get her point, and I think you also agree that there is a lot of drama happening in when you're working
sadly,
with
yes.
it's
even before creating Roqe. I mean, I knew that for years. Every time I'd be hired to host an event in Iranian, it's like, oh boy, here we go. Jian, we need someone to park the car outside. I thought I was hired to host here are the keys. Go. The BMW is over there, and you will not be allowed back in.
And also, while you're hosting, mention Majid Agha. He got upset. We didn't mention him at the top of the show.
But let's not let many of these bad ones ruin the culture for us. There are still
Let's
good
not
ones.
let half of our community ruin the rest.
Yeah, like these women on the show today, for example, women power, man. They're like out there. They're young too. They're in their early 30s doing big things in this world. And I'm just looking at Tara Zadeh's handbags right now. She's right. It did not. I was curious. I was like, wait a minute, revolutionary handbag. Okay, I'm pretty sure I would know about this. But I looked it up. She's actually right. There's, you always have to kind of carry it or whatever, and it goes around your wrist. How convenient.
Yeah. No, it's.
I think I might have to buy one now.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's
is.
brilliant. She
Why
walked
couldn't
in,
I come up with that? Damn
Well,
it.
exactly, Keon. I mean,
Useless.
This is what I as excited as I was for their success. I I cry inside thinking about you.
You and my mother.
It makes two of us.
That makes 10 of us.
Hey, a big thank you again to Kati Kavandi and Kati Kavandi Immigration Services Inc. for making this edition of Roqe possible. This is a full-service immigration firm that offers all inland and overseas immigration services, including temporary visas, permanent visas, PR extensions, and citizenship applications. Kati and her team are available to inform and assist you as their client throughout the whole immigration process. If you want to come to Canada or you're here and you need support, you need an immigration counselor, Kati is your person. Kati Kavandi Immigration Services. Check them out on Instagram at kati.kavandi.immigration. All right, we've been teasing this. It's Monday. It's been a couple of weeks since we went through the letters, and I know we've got a lot of them. It's time for Letters of the Week.
Not bad.
Anyway.
اینقدر از خودت تعریف نکن.
آره واقعا.
I know.
بس دیگه زشته
کی بکنه ازم تعریف خودم نکنم.
خودت تنها. All right, so like I said on the specific episode of Farah Diba and the Rise of Iranian Art, which was part 3 of the Nook.
Of the Nook.
Part 3 of the Nook.
Part 3 of the new Roqe series called The Contemporary History of Iran.
Now I know you. It's Farah Diba, right?
Is it Farah or Farah?
Farah.
Farah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You of all people.
I pronounce things. Wait,
you're
I don't know. It depends on what language I'm speaking.
see.
If it's English, then I try to be more English. And
I see, right.
Anyway, we got a lot of people writing.
You want to say it like Farrah Fawcett, like Farrah.
Exactly,
Right.
Farah, yeah. Same tomato, whatever. خب, Ghazaleh Didaban wrote saying, "Greetings to Her Majesty the Queen of Iran.
Ooh.
You are our pride. We want the Pahlavi dynasty, that is, prosperity and glory, to return to Iran once again."
Okay.
And then we have Amir Hossein Izadi, who wrote, "Great job. By the way, Her Majesty herself tweeted your work." She did. She shared it across all her platforms.
Yes, she shared this episode. We thank her for that. This episode about how she, even as a young monarch, is she the monarch or the?
Well, she is.
What?
She
The
married
Empress,
the monarch
yeah.
and then become.
How she rolled up her sleeves and became directly involved in celebrating, celebrating Iranian art and Iranian culture, and that's what that episode was about, featuring Dr. Layla Diba.
Yeah. Important work. And then we have Melody Avakia, who takes a very different stance. She says, "Farah did contribute to the art scene of Iran, but at the same time, while she was worried about which painting to bring to Iran, there were people suffering from not having access to basic food and water. I mean, granted, I'm sure there are still people in Iran who are in the same situation, so I guess more of the same. Big dislike to any monarchy."
Ooh la la.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Melody.
Oh, wow. And then we have a Thomas David, not an Iranian name, but nonetheless, he says, "Thank you, Mother Iran. Return to your homeland as soon as possible. We are looking forward to it." Yeah.
I suppose Thomas means you, Kian.
That was not me. No, I did not write that.
Probably means
No.
Farah Diba.
Some Iranians changed their name, both first and last, so who knows. We have Kurush II Salimi wrote saying, let me clear my throat, this one's a doozy. He says, 3 points I would like to add after listening to this interesting interview. On point 1, Dr. Layla S. Diba is wrong. She's saying that the concept of royal treasury or khazaneh belongs to the Timurid or Safavid era. While even during the Achaemenid period, we have had khazaneh shahi, not just in Persepolis Palace, but also in Apadana Palace in Susa. Point 2, I am sincerely thankful to Her Majesty Shahbanu Farah Pahlavi and her team, including Dr. Layla S. Diba, and those brave patriotic Iranians who took care of Iranian museums during the 1979 chaos and up to now. Point 3, another thing which was really annoying, The interviewer didn't call her Imperial Majesty Empress Farah Pahlavi by at least the title of Shah Banu. Is he coming from a leftist, communist, Islamist family or what? Well, anyway, thanks to him for this podcast. Much appreciated. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I'm not sure I could keep up with all those titles that I was supposed to read, but I can assure the writer that my family is and was not a leftist, communist, Islamist family. That's for sure. I'll assure you of that.
Come on, Jian, tell us the truth.
I was waiting for
Are you
it.
related to Khomeini?
A leftist, communist, Islamist. I mean, with all three.
All in one.
Yes, you'll find all three in my...
Amir Manu wrote saying, my question is, for how long after one is king or queen should you still refer to them by their title? And I'm not talking about monarchy fanatics or hardcore dummies. Generally speaking. And then in brackets he wrote, "'Cause she ain't the queen no mo, baby."
Oh my God.
That is harsh.
I mean, it's an interesting, I think if we were, it's an interesting question. It's a good, it might be a funny letter,
Depends
but
on
if
which-
you were not Iranian, or if you're referring to a monarch from another culture, another country, who's no longer a sitting monarch, and you said this is King, they would say, well, is it still King?
Give me an example. Who used to be queen and isn't anymore that isn't from Iran? Is there another example of this?
I don't think so, because usually
Right.
when you're king or queen for life,
But I don't know of
unless
any
you're
other.
overthrown.
I don't know of any other
But
cases.
the closest example would be a president. A former president still refers to as
Former
president.
I don't know if that's the closest example.
That's not the closest.
I'm trying to think of
example.
another king.
Like in
A
Europe,
queen.
I don't know. Like I think they're deceased. A lot of the queens and kings that once were in a position.
But if they're not deceased, but they're no longer in power, I mean, it's a good. Who knows?
I don't
We
know.
probably
There's
won't solve it
I
right
don't
now.
know.
It's an interesting question. I'm sure
let's
there's an
get to the
answer,
bottom
and
of
I'm
it.
sure we'll get letters about it. So bring them. Give me the long list of things I have to say for a dear Farah Pahlavi before her name.
You can't please everybody. Let's just face it. Cool. Karim Kanyan wrote, "If Farah was the queen of Iran still, all of you who now so passionately speak of her would have hated her guts. You're only missing them because they're not around. Stop being so dramatic and emotional. That's why we are where we are. We never bother to find out the whole truth about our past. The Pahlavi weren't that great, man. If they were, there wouldn't have been a revolution."
All right.
A
Karim.
lot of opposition letters.
Yeah. It was
both
a
sides.
diversity of opinion.
there
Yeah.
is. That's right. Mojgan Bigdilo wrote, "Our gratitude to all the people who had worked and support the Pahlavi family in their mission to build a country that we all miss."
All right.
Khob. On episode 151, we had a feature interview with Iranian-American tech entrepreneur, investor, CEO, and co-founder of the education nonprofit Code.org, Hadi Partovi. That was a really good episode, actually. We have a writer by the name of Zoe Mehr wrote saying, "This one was quite an inspiration. I've started my path in programming recently and really appreciate him and his work. I'm proud of him."
Yeah.
And then Shahla Tahir wrote, "It was a fantastic interview for many points of view. I just compare what he does for helping people to learn technology to Iran. In Iran, they are opening a new branch at the university for students to learn how to force people to live according to Islam's rules. They learn how to punish people who do not obey. It will continue up to high levels, and these people become professors in this branch. I got tears just thinking about it. Best wishes for you and your wonderful programs."
Oh.
Yeah, beautiful. Letter of the week time. All right. This letter of the week goes to what's her name? He or she, Isis R. So it's the episode on how the Iran-Iraq war benefited Khomeini, which was part 4 of the contemporary history of Iran.
Sorry, what was the username again?
Isis, last name R. Yes. He or she wrote,
I think it's probably she.
You think?
It's a
ISIS.
ISIS. It
ISIS?
was a cool name.
It was an
before.
Egyptian goddess,
Yes,
right?
I had
Okay.
I know. I
It was such
I have
a
a
cool
friend named
name.
Isis, and I
Oh,
felt
shit.
bad for her
You're
sometime around
right.
2005.
That's
when I was
right.
Like, oh boy, here
it
we go.
used to be
Yeah.
a beautiful name. It still is, in my opinion.
Or maybe
but-
2015. I mean, it's the last few years
Yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, she wrote, "Thank you for this brilliant series. As a non-Persian,
Oh.
but nonetheless a big fan of Persian culture and history, this is such a treat."
Oh,
Isn't that
right.
lovely?
That is a good letter.
A
the letter of the week.
non-Persian.
A non-Persian
Yeah.
checking out the contemporary history of Iran.
Yeah.
When the real people who should be listening are these Persians who know nothing of our history. Thank you so much, Isis. What a great letter. And thank you very much, Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya.
خواهش میکنم.
Okay. And the fabulous Keon.
منم خواهش میکنم.
Good. Manam خواهش میکنم. Thank you to all of you. This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Our website, roqemedia.com, is where to find all things Roqe. roqemedia.com. Our previous episodes, videos, guests, episodes of the contemporary history of Iran, roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Sponsor the artists, Super Parisa, Savi Roham, Maghai Merdad, producer Susan, Captain Reza, and Groovy Shaya, and the fabulous Keon. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you have not done so already. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Jian Ghomeshi. And as ever, in the meantime, Mizun Bashi.